Holy City Center Radio, it is episode 348, and I am your host, Christian Sanger. Today is Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I hope your week is going well. I also hope you liked the last episode, the interview with Gedney Howe IV. A lot of important information about that state bill that is, being presented in one way, and maybe there's a few consequences we don't know about as it relates to the whole liquor liability and insurance as it relates to restaurants and bars in town. So if you haven't listened to that, be sure to go back. It's very informative. But today we have an interview as well, which you want to hear. So whatever order you want to go to, make sure you listen to both episodes. This is another good one. Today I'm talking to TD McMurry. He is the owner of an elevated everyday men's store in Mount Pleasant. The business's name, appropriately, TD McMurry. So easy to find it, but there are links in the show notes, which I mentioned a few times in the interview. It was really fun talking to him. I mentioned in the interview that I want to go in and check out the store. And, sometimes people, I think, when they hear interviews and things, they think, everyone's just being nice to each other and they don't really mean those things. But no, I definitely want to go in. It sounds like a really unique experience and, the kind of place I would like to visit. And I've looked around the website and the socials, specifically at his Instagram. And, I love a lot of the clothing I see on there. I think it's, like he describes it, it's an elevated everyday men's store. I mentioned in the interview where, to me, that kind of everyday middle, which is obviously most of the times when you go out in town, there's not a bunch of high end events. Well, I guess that's not true. There are a lot, but, where you're like, okay, suit or tux if it's super fancy. And as a guy, yeah, you can take some fashion risks. I'm not like a super risky fashion guy. So those are kind of easy for me. Yeah, I just got to, obviously, it comes down to making sure you find something that fits and the cost. But that's fairly simple for a guy, suits and tuxes. There's not a ton of, if you're not looking to take a chance, there's not a lot of variation there. And casual is easy. Everybody knows how to do casual, whatever, just wear whatever the heck you want. Of course, that kind of middle ground is always where I've struggled. Okay, I've got this event. It's definitely not a suit, tie, or tux type thing. And it's definitely not just, hanging out with my friends. I want to look nice, but not like over the top. But I also want to make sure I'm in line with what everybody else is wearing. And this is the kind of place for those occasions, where you're maybe looking for something. And even if you know a lot about fashion or you have strong opinions about your personal fashion, this is still a great store for you. I don't want to say too much more because it's all in the interview, but I really enjoyed talking to TD and learning about him. He's also a musician, so we talk about that a little bit. And he's fairly new to Charleston, so we talk about him coming here, what brought him here, and what it takes to open a store and how this first year of business has been for them. So without any further delay, let's get into the interview. And joining me now, as promised, is TD McMurry, owner of the store that bears his name. It's located in Mount Pleasant. We're going to dive into all of that in just a moment. But first, TD, thank you so much for joining me today. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Of course. So before we get into your business, what's going on with you currently, what I like to do with folks when I interview them is have them tell the audience a little bit about themselves first, however much detail you want, however far back you want to go, just something that so people know a little bit about who you are. And then, we'll dive into when you open the store and everything after that.
Yeah, of course. So I've been in retail for about 6-7 years now. And before that, I grew up playing music. That was always kind of my side gig, whatever job I had. I tried to play the local restaurant and bar scene once or twice a week. And having that kind of creative outlet was always really important for me. So when I got into clothing, it was kind of like a natural fit, seeing as it's, it can be a way to express yourself in a different way. So as soon as I started in the industry, I just absolutely fell in love with it. I grew up in South Louisiana, and we moved here about a year and a half ago. And it's been great. Everything we could have hoped for.
And, you mentioned that you got into fashion, the creativity, being able to express yourself and how it related to music. And, so you move here about a year and a half ago, like you said, and end up opening a store. What inspired you to actually go ahead and take that leap and open up a store like this?
Yeah. So when I got into the industry, I started working for a friend of mine who had a casual men's shop, and I completely fell in love with it. It was the first job that really scratched that creative itch. And I knew it's what I was supposed to be doing. And then funnily enough, it kind of all clicked for me. My family's got deep roots in retail. So my great grandfather opened a women's and children's shop in South Louisiana in 1917.
Wow.
And it ran for 80 years. And matter of fact, the counter that I have in my store is the same counter from his original store,
Oh, wow.
108 years ago.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So how were you able to come in possession of that? We'll get back to the other stuff, but I'm just interested in the counters, that side of things.
Yeah. So it was in the store until 97, and it got moved into my fishing camp just as like storage for 25 years. And then it was sitting we had a hurricane come through South Louisiana. And once we were moving stuff out of the camp, the counter just kind of got put in storage and almost forgotten about. And then whenever we decided to make the move, I called my dad and said, "Hey, that counter, I'm gonna need that. I need that little piece of family history to be in my shop." So it worked out well.
That's so cool. Like you said, having that piece of family history must be really unique and gratifying for you when you're, working and seeing it there and just being reminded of, your family and them being there with you, basically.
Yeah.
Now, so you decide to, I guess I've jumped ahead a little bit. What brought you to Charleston in the first place?
Well, when we were just looking for something new, I've got 3 kids. And when we started talking about it, my oldest was 7. And we kind of knew if we were going to make a move, it needed to be sooner rather than later. So we weren't, changing schools in middle school or high school. And we'd kind of decided if we were going to pack up and go somewhere, it needed to be somewhere we really wanted to live. We pretty quickly decided on the Carolinas, looked at a few different cities. And I think we were in Charleston for about 3 hours before I looked at my wife and said, "Why did we even look anywhere else? Like, this is paradise. It's got everything we want." So quality of life is incredible. The sense of community, the coastal lifestyle that I grew up with, felt like home to me. And then just from a business perspective, we felt like there was a gap in the market for the styles that we're bringing. There's plenty of options for suiting and your kind of traditional menswear and, athletic and golf apparel, but there wasn't one dedicated purely to the elevated everyday menswear, the casual menswear. So that's, as soon as we saw that there was a spot for a store, it was a no-brainer.
And you just mentioned your brand. I guess you described it as elevated everyday men's fashion clothing. And as I'm sure I'm sure you deal with all manner of men coming in. Some have a very distinct fashion sense, know exactly the type of things they like, and others who just are looking for help. And you can kind of guide them, find articles of clothing or outfits that fit for them. Is that kind of a good explanation of what an elevated everyday men's store would be?
Yes. So we've got some like familiar brands that they'll know. So when any guy comes in, they can feel comfortable. We truly feel like we have something for everybody. So we're looking for that kind of in between, like not the formal attire, not your suits and not your athletic wear, but that true everyday, whether it's a birthday dinner or date night. And just with offices being more casual now, we feel like, there's definitely room in the market for that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just to give a personal, kind of anecdote to this, like this is the area that I always tend to struggle in the most when it comes to, getting ready for events or going out. Like casual, that's easy. Everybody can do casual, just
Right.
hanging out with friends, family, whatever. On the high end, like, yeah, of course there's different levels to it, but for the most part, people get they have a pretty good idea of like what a suit or a tux should look like. But that kind of middle area where I don't want to be too fancy, but I also don't want to be too casual. What does that mean? That's like that. In my opinion, that's the toughest part when it comes to men's fashion and dressing myself. What's going to look good, but not, not too over the top. That's my personally. I don't know if a lot of your customers are that way or not.
No, absolutely. It's you want to look intentional and put together, but not stuffy.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of how we see it.
In Charleston, I had a similar story to yours where I came to visit, fell in love, moved here, but. This is obviously the same in every city in America, I'm sure. But there is not only is there a distinct Charleston style in some capacity, but there's also different versions of it depending on ages and industries and things like that. So there's actually, it sometimes feels like a little bit more pressure if you're going out to do things in this town, with what you're wearing. It can sometimes seem like a competition. I don't know, how many men feel that way as opposed to women, but there certainly is kind of a little like, oh, I want to make sure I look good, and in everyone else's eyes as well. So I'm sure, having a business like yours is very valuable to people who, may not know exactly, how to dress in these types of situations. And for that, you offer these personal styling services where you can help people, find out what looks good on them, what would be appropriate for the type of events they're looking for, and things like that. Correct?
Absolutely. So whether it's like, we have people that'll come in and say, hey, I'm going, to Spain for 2 weeks, and I need new clothes to take for that. We can put some looks together. If it's just I've got a birthday dinner and I've worn the same jacket in the last, 3 pictures that my wife's posted on Instagram, so I want something different. Right. We can help there too. As small or big of a change as you want. We've got guys that come in and they'll basically come in at the beginning of the fall season or the beginning of the spring season and say, okay, my closet needs a refresh. So we'll try and kind of give them pieces that they can mix and match with the stuff they've already got, but just provide a little bit of freshness in their wardrobe.
And so you opened your doors in March of 2024, I believe, is what I read.
Yes.
So like you said, you're approaching now a year of the store being open. Actually, I should have read the email, but I just got an email talking about your 1 year, anniversary here. Tell me a little bit about the last year. How has it been? Struggles, I'm sure, opening a business and keeping it going? Has it been somewhat smooth sailing? Like, how has this last year been?
Yeah, new business, there's always, hiccups and things like that you come across, but we're learning, we're growing, and we're meeting new people every week, which is all that we can ask for. Thankfully we did move here about 8 months before we opened. So we had time to, meet people, make friends, kind of get the name out there, which definitely helped, in month 1, because then it wasn't just this new store that opened and we don't know where to start. We had our friend base, we had our group of people that knew what we were doing and were excited to see what we were bringing to Charleston. So, it's been great. Like we're really happy with it. We feel like we're in a great location, and we're excited to see what this summer holds.
Oh, that's awesome. And tell me a little bit more about the store itself. Number one, I mentioned Mount Pleasant, but specifically, where can people find you? What are are you 7 days a week? And then also, when you come into the store, what can people expect?
For sure. So we're open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 6 during the week, and then on Saturdays 10 to 4. We are on Coleman Boulevard, right between the Ravenel Bridge and Shim Creek. So easy to find us. We're right next door to Agave's, which is a Mexican restaurant I eat at far more often than I should.
I'm sure.
Um, but and then when you come in the shop, we've got obviously, like I said, I'm a musician, so I love to make good playlists for the store. I've got, depending on the day, sometimes I'll have a all locals playlist with bands like The Simplicity or Brave Baby and Susto, and sometimes it'll be more James Taylor, Crosby, Stills, Nash. But I'm always trying to make sure the vibe's right in the shop. And to make it a little bit easier on people, we've got if they don't really love shopping, we've got a fridge full of beer, and we're happy to hand one out from our buddies at Westbrook to to make it a little bit
Yeah.
smoother for them.
Definitely got local ties between the local brewery you just mentioned, and as you said, sometimes playing local bands in the store. So even though you've only been here for a year, you're already into the local scene for sure.
Oh yeah, that's putting roots down in a new spot was a big undertaking, but just in terms of you're starting from scratch, but we've made really good friends here. It's been great.
That's awesome. Yeah. I definitely am going to have to swing in. I love the sound of it. And yeah, like you said, we're starting to warm up. It's probably time for a refresh. I'll have to swing in, and I encourage everybody else to as well. And we'll put a link in the show notes, so people can easily get the address and more details and things like that. But quick transition. You brought up being a musician a couple times, and tell me a little bit about that side of things. Are you playing shows around town, or is it more just you kind of doing your own thing at home? What's that like here in Charleston for you?
Yeah. So when I first moved here, I was reaching out to book as much as I could. I've played a few gigs around at restaurants or at like the Dinghy on IOP, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
But lately, it's been mostly just at the house. Enough to make sure my guitars don't collect dust in the corner, basically. I love playing and I love doing the gig stuff. There's so much good music in Charleston that it was a little tougher for me to kind of get my foot in the door to some places, but that just comes with time.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure you'll be able to get more gigs as your name gets out there, but also at the same breath, you've only been here for like a year, a little over a year and a half, like you said, and you open to store during that time, which I'm sure keeps
Exactly.
you very, very busy.
Right.
So it's not like you have all this free time to, whether it's getting your name out there or playing a bunch of gigs. But I'm sure as things get a little bit more, and I'm sure they are continuing to each month that passes, a little bit more streamlined. You kind of know what your day to day is going to be like and everything. So I'm sure you'll be able to do both, but that's got to be fun too. At the top of the interview, you tied in, your passion for music with fashion, and how you saw both as a way to, be creative and express yourself. And it sounds like, number one, that's got to be fun. You've got these two outlets that you just really enjoy, and brings you a lot of fulfillment.
Absolutely.
And tell me a little bit more about your life here in Charleston. You mentioned you have a family. Are they helping out at the store? You put those kids to work yet?
Absolutely. Yes. My daughter's favorite task is making tags for our for when we gift wrap. The boys tend to hang out and play on their Switches. They're Nintendo Switches, but hey, all in good time. And my wife handles a lot of the kind of back of house stuff. So inventory management, getting stuff ready for our website, and yeah, so it's a full family affair over here.
Yeah, and that's, again, going back, you mentioned having that counter from your great grandfather's store, so a lot of family tie-ins, and that's got to be gratifying too, being able to, not everybody who, whatever their job may be, gets to be with their family during that job, of course. So that's got to
Right.
be, really fulfilling to have them with you on a day-to-day basis in the store as well.
Absolutely.
Is there anything that I didn't ask you, or we just didn't get to for whatever reason, whether it's about the store or you're playing music? Is there anything else that you want people to know about you, or again about the store, or anything we just didn't get to?
Yeah. So on the shop, I'd say like I mentioned earlier, we try to carry a few brands that are recognizable to the customer, so that anyone can walk in, feel comfortable, and find something. But what we feel is maybe the most important part of our job is finding unique brands, smaller batch labels that, when I'm seeing these pieces at a market, I'm talking with the owner of the brand, the head designer, the guy who wears all the hats, and get to hear about his passion for the clothing and why he made this one item a certain way. And we feel like one of the most important parts of our job is bringing that back here and showing people that we we love the familiar favorites and the basics are important, but there's a whole other world that I mean, before I was a fashion buyer, had no clue existed,
Mm.
So it's really fun for us to get to bring that here and let people know that some of the stuff they're buying, it's a little piece of history. It makes it fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, just learning about that stuff has got to be fun, of course, for you. And also, I'm sure some customers enjoy learning about new brands and the background of those and, maybe what they stand for or what the type of products they put out. But like you said, too, not just you as an individual want new, outfits every so often, whether it be for pictures and things, but with Charleston again being such a social town, and there's so many opportunities that you could end up having your picture on someone's Instagram or TikTok or
Correct.
whatever. And number one, of course, you want to look nice, but you also don't want to have the same major name brand shirt that every other person has either. So, it's good
Right.
to find like a smaller brand and something a little bit more unique.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that kind of what's your personal style? How would you describe it? Is it basically what your store is, I'm guessing?
Yes, pretty much. My rule of thumb is if I don't love something, I'm I'm going to pass on it. I want to I want to look at the brands. When we go to market, they'll have 150 items. I want to pick the best 15 to 20 from that brand,
Mm.
so that everything we're getting from these brands is the greatest hits. To really kind of curate it down so that when people come in, it's not overwhelming. They're not seeing, thousands of different shirting options. We're picking the top 10 to 15 from the different brands that we believe in and love, and showing that to the guys here in Charleston.
Very nice. Well, for people who are interested in learning more, and we've already told you the shop's it's off of Coleman Boulevard, but I'll put some links in the show notes to help people get to those quicker. Where is the best place for people to get information or any other things you want to plug, whether it's your socials or whatever else there may be?
Yeah, our Instagram, we're posting, stories daily, post a few times a week, and that's where we're always posting our new arrivals first. We have that's Instagram at tdmcmurray.shop. And then our website, tdmcmurrayshop.com, is our full inventory of what is on the sales floor. And we do offer free local delivery on the website. So if you
Nice.
place an order by 3 p.m. Monday through Friday, it'll be delivered same day.
Pretty
And
great. That's tough
yeah,
to beat right there. That's pretty good.
absolutely. Yeah. That way, I mean, if you can't make it in, you can at least get it quickly, try it on, know if it's going to work for you. Um, And then we've got you mentioned our anniversary. We have our
Mhm.
anniversary party coming up March 15th, where we'll have the founder of one of our brands, Long Wharf Supply, in store. He's got sweaters and shirts that are made from like blends of cotton and recycled oyster shells, which is pretty
Oh,
cool.
weird. That's interesting. Yeah.
And then to kind of tie along with that, we're going to have Low Country Oyster here in the store shucking for our guests. So it'll be 10 to 4 Saturday, March 15th.
Awesome. Yeah, like I said, your team just sent me those details and I hadn't gotten to it yet. But for those listening, I will have gotten to it by the time this comes out, and it'll be on holycitycenter.com as well as on the events calendar. So you can, again, I'll have the link and all that in the show notes for you. Thank you so much, TD, for taking the time to talk to me today. I really appreciated it. I learned a lot about you and your store, which I definitely will be visiting soon. So I'll be sure to say hi. And I encourage everyone listening to, give it a visit as well. Thank you so much again for taking the time to tell me all about your store and your life.
Absolutely. Thanks, Christian. I appreciate it.
And that'll do it for this edition of Holy City Center Radio. I hope you enjoyed listening. Thank you so much for doing so. If you have a chance, please rate, review, like, and subscribe. Whatever you can do on the platform you're listening to the show on, please do so. That helps get this podcast into other people's feeds. Also, thank you to Lindsay Marie Collins with LMC Soundsystem for producing this and every episode of Holy City Center Radio, and Tyler Boone, whose music you hear in each and every show. I will be back with you on Friday. I don't currently have any interviews lined up, so I should be able to get you caught up on the latest news unless something changes. But yes, we should be able to get you caught up on everything that's been going on and what may happen in between this recording and recording that next episode. So I'll talk to you soon. I'm already looking forward to it. Until then, good night and good luck.